Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Thursday. It's September 22nd. This will be our chart lesson for today, and this will wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays, so price is traded down today on the daily chart. You can see, really, we kind of had mostly a range day. Most of this sell-off was during the overnight, and we just kind of chopped around in the day, but we did close near the lows for the day. And on the daily, it looks definitely bearish, but you can see if you zoom in here a little bit that we're bouncing off the lows of that previous range. It looks like, notice how we tried to go higher there and the range was holding, and so it looks like we're back in this pink range again, and this is where the strong support had been coming in previously. We didn't get any rejection off that today. Well, we did momentarily, but we ended up closing real near it. So we could push on through there tomorrow. We may go ahead and push for that new low here. We'll see. So this support could hold. This has been really strong support so far, and every time we've tested this before, we've bounced off of it. So, except this time it's held. We haven't been able to breach that level, but we sure didn't get any rejection off of it today, other than temporary rejection. So let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and take a look at it, and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap it up. Okay, here it is. You can see we actually during the overnight we ran up and then we ran back down, and 8:30 we continued down. We got a close outside this channel pretty quickly and then trended to a new low. But this thing could never rally, as you can see. It looked like late this afternoon it was going to rally, and look how strong that sell-off was late this afternoon. And so, but most of the trading day was spent right across here in this trading range. So this is not an easy. I mean, this was not an easy trading day. It really wasn't. Early on, there was a lot of fluctuation here, but once we started making these lower highs and lower lows through here, it was pretty obvious we were going on down and making a new low. It's just the timing was hard to really predict, and you'll see there's not many sales until we broke on through. So not a lot of trades. I mean, there's plenty of trades today, but late this afternoon, really pretty much after 1 o'clock, I didn't see anything I liked. There weren't many setups. This is not an easy range to trade. You'll see there's a few trades in there. So most of the trades were before lunchtime, and then after that, there wasn't a whole lot left. There's a couple of afternoon trades, not much. So let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap up this day. So notice we had this original khaki channel. We had a break and new low, and then we started up. And so 7 o'clock came just as we're making a high here. It comes back, and we got this bar right here at 7:09. And actually, I forgot to mark that trade. I like that trade as a reversal because this is played out, and you can clearly see first entry, second entry, and so I like that trade. We ran up here. We got our first break of this green channel, and there's 2 legs down, and this was actually a second entry long, and it's a higher low as well. My problem with it was a little bit low. We couldn't breach through that EMA, and it's starting to turn sideways and flat there, so that concerns me a little bit. I think you're still probably, if we get a break above that, I think you can count on getting a scalp out of that and probably make a new high. So maybe you take that trade. You can see that there's really, you could call that a triple test too. I marked it green because there's some issues with it, mostly that it's below the EMA. Also, we got a close. You might argue we got a close outside right there, but it's not real convincing. So we didn't really get a close out till here. But either way, I mean, if we got a close out here, you made a new low. If not, we didn't make a new low here, so that's another issue. So it's hard to know there. I mean, maybe the trend line was more like this, and there's not a close outside. But if you look at it like that, we don't get a close outside at all. So which one's right? I'm not sure. This is the way I originally had it played. It looks closer to being correct to me there. And I just don't think you really have a convincing close outside there, but you do right here. And we didn't quite get a new low. Either way, we don't get a new low. So, but it's a second entry long. So maybe you take that trade. Turns out to be a nice trade if you did. Then we run up here. We make a new high. Then we make a new low. And so I like going short right there on a lower high. It breaks higher and fails, and you're so far away from the EMA, you're going to at least come back there. And if you catch that trade, that may be all you needed today. You might be able to close up and go home because you most likely get a runner there. And this was an easy runner to ride all the way down. And you can see here, if you just wrote it down to where you get the first close outside and then get a break above that, it still gives you almost $1,000 on a single contract. That's the kind of runner we like to catch there. But this, you don't get any other chances down there, and then you get a close outside and move to a new low, and now we got a trend working up. But again, I don't see any way. You might have looked at that as a failed second entry short, but it looks like congestion there, and notice that it doesn't go very far, and you don't have much room to that high. I'd skip that. And then of course you're working down here. I didn't really like the channel starting till here. This looks just more like, I don't know what you want to call that. Look how sideways we kind of are, and then it starts to turn down, and so the trend really starts here, and that's why I drew it that way. I know somebody will ask me that. Could you have drawn one up here? Yeah, I'm sure you probably could. But you would have already had a close outside, and it just keeps going lower there. So to me, I really believe this is where the trend started down. And there's a second entry short there. Notice the new low, first entry, and it tries to go higher, and when it breaks lower there, it's a second entry short. And again, you probably get a runner on this. Comes back to the trend line here, no setup. Then we get a close outside. You might have looked at that as a lower high. It's a really bearish bar, but I wasn't crazy about it because we really already have a new low in place by a tick or so. And you can see how they really struggle to go any lower. This thing is just really oversold down here. That's part of the problem. If you took that trade, maybe I'll give it a green. I think you're better off waiting. And then you might try to say there's a reversal there, but it didn't close below the EMA like we'd like. Another lower high here with plenty of room, but I'd wait on a second entry. And by the time you get your second entry, which is right here, it's an inside bar, and there's some good bit of support across there. So I just don't see anything across here until we get a failed break lower. I don't think you want to try and pick a low, even though it's probably going to fail. Measured move was a little further down here. You know, it's another one. Maybe you argue for it to be green, but I'll just be honest with you. On a day that's this bearish, in a market that's so bearish, I don't think I take that. I didn't mark it the first time. I'm not going to mark it this time. We talked about it. If you see it there and you took it, I just think it's a little risky. But we do run back up and turn down right off the lows. I mean, that bar is only 6 ticks, bearish, plenty of room back to the EMA. Take that trade. There's the lower high right there, and that one's real tempting too. I just don't think you want to go short down here without testing this a couple more times. I tested again right here, and that one's tempting, but look how sideways and congested with how close to the low, and you see what happens. It bounces quickly. Maybe that would have worked, but I don't think you want to risk it. Let's just see. Yeah, you would have got out by the skin of your teeth, but I wouldn't risk that. So, and then of course we bounce. It's tempting to go long right there. It really is. But we already touched this level right here, and that it could run up and touch that and turn back down. So this thing's just really bearish. And so you got to be real careful buying here. So you can see there's not enough room to get out there, and so that's why I don't like that one. It works, and we just kind of bounce along. You don't want to be buying. I don't see anything to go short here. Same thing here. If that would have broke higher and you had a little more room back to the well, the EM, really, because we're going sideways here, the EMA doesn't matter that much. And this is definitely played out with two legs up, but it's just too much sideways, too many lows right across there. Even these, look at all the closes across there. Even the stems, I mean, there's some stems that push on down, but everything's closing across there. So that's a dangerous level to be going short. And of course, it bounces here. It does come back and give you a little breakout pullback. So that one is tempting, but you gotta, I don't think I would wait for this bar to go long because you don't have enough room to the measured move in case it turns down. And if you go long here on the engulfing bar, then you don't have any much room to these highs. Neither one of them mattered, but you don't know that until after the fact. And so I think you're really being risky trying to take either one of those trades. Notice we run up, we get a close outside and the high all in one bar, and you make a lower high here with a nice bearish bar. And this is back at the key entry point. That's the first close outside. I can almost guarantee you we're going to make a retest of this low, and so I like going short there. You get a failed second entry long, but notice how we're above the EMA, so you don't want to take that. And then we're just kind of chopping sideways here again. And we're just kind of staying between these highs and these lows here. And I just don't see much in here that I really like. You definitely, again, you don't want to be going long yet because there's no new low. And some of these bounces would have been easy pickings, but I don't think I take them. So, okay, sorry, I had a little interruption there, but there's a good clue. Even though we're going sideways here, there's a strong clue that we're probably going to go lower. And notice how each one of these swings higher has a little less momentum until finally we drop on down here. So I didn't mark this trade right here, but it's clearly actually the failure is right here. But I think you could have traded this as a lower high back inside the range when it broke high. You can't trade it down here, but if you traded it on the engulfing, which you might have considered, you might take that trade. I'll just mark it green with that understanding that if you traded that on the engulfing bar, I'm pretty sure this broke higher first and then turned down, and if that's the case, you could have gone short right there. I remember watching this, and it was tempting, and I just watched it. I didn't trade it. I just didn't. Because I think I missed it, but and you can't wait till down here. I was hoping it might close in here and you could go short, but that's not what happened. It ends up closing way down here, and you just can't go short because you see it bounces really quick, and look how strong it is when it bounces. But notice it goes back to the top and turns down again. Then it gets underneath, tries to come back twice. It can't, and then it tries to come back again, and we tried to go higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, and got a big bearish bar. I like going short there. There's a second entry short here and a lower high as well, but again, it's right into that measured move, and it could bounce again. It's one of those. It's so tempting, and it's probably going to work, but it's one of those that can often get you. So maybe we just mark it green. The better place to enter was here, obviously. And this drops on down, and we just kept kind of bouncing down, chopping down real weakly until finally it bounced. And by this time, we've got the new low in. Once we passed this, went much past here, that we already had the new low in. And so anything down here is getting really dangerous. We bounce. You think we might bounce out of here. We don't. We just continue lower. And here we go. We got a first entry and then a second entry. And this looks a lot like this over here. But this breaks higher and turns down. You could go short on the engulfing bar. Probably better to wait and let this close, and when it closes that bearish, just go short. That's a nice setup. We got plenty of room to the lows here. And then, of course, we bounce back. But don't try picking the low down, a bottom down here. Once again, you don't want to risk trying to pick a. And it takes a little while, but it pushes on up, and you just don't really get any setups in here. There's a second entry here, but the signal bar is no good. You get your close out here. It's just a first entry down. There's a lower high here, too low. And then all of a sudden it's reversing back, and we're just kind of chopping around here. I like this one because you get a first entry, second entry on a lower high. Really, you got a double top there. Just with that much room back to the EMA, you know you'll probably come back there at a minimum. Maybe you get lucky and it takes off lower. Again, I don't think you want to buy. You've got to be careful down here. You need something going higher. And then finally you get a first entry, second entry. So there's a trap right there. If it breaks higher, it's probably going to trap people. And you can see quickly how fast people were exiting, running for the door. And that's probably people short covering that got short over in here somewhere, and they're trying to protect their profits. And it could be new shorts that came in here too that figured out, hey, I'm too late now. This thing's about to reverse. And as soon as they run up here and run all the, run everybody's stops, and suddenly next thing you know, it's going lower. Now you could have, here's another one. It broke higher first and then turned down. Maybe you trade that on the engulfing bar, but I don't think I'll wait till this closes with that stem there, because it could try to push up and make a new high. You don't have a new high here. You just have a close outside. So maybe you just try to get a quick scalp out of that. But once it closed with that stem and back inside this bar, now it looks like congestion, so I'd leave it alone. It would have been a nice trade, but you just don't know that ahead of time. And then, of course, we did no retest. Notice now it's trying to run back up for a retest. You might have said, hey, there's a little reversal type pattern here, but this is just too choppy. I'd leave it alone. And again, I don't want to be buying down here. Wait for some kind of reversal or trap, and you get that here, but it's not a very good setup. It looks very similar to this one, but we're on the wrong side of the EMA. You get a little trend working up, close outside, new high, and then you're just chopping sideways again. So this drops down. Actually, what happens here is this just kind of expands. And it drops down, fails, it comes back inside right there. So if it breaks higher, we'll probably go at least to the high side, and we may go back to the high side here, because notice we're coming off the high here to the low, and we didn't get back to the high yet. So there's a good chance that's where we're going. So I like that one. It does run up there, starts working sideways, and then gets this little trap with the very bearish bar. And again, it's fairly small, 6 ticks, way away from the EMA. I like that one, just to run it back, ride it back to the EMA, because it could bounce. I marked it green because it looks a little congested, but if you understand why, because of the range highs are there and it can't get through it, then I think it's okay to take that trade. Then of course you get a first entry, and then you drop down here and it pulls back. You get a second entry and it breaks higher and fails and turns down. I like going short down there, whether you took the engulfing or not. I'd probably wait for this to close just to make sure it's going to be bearish, and if it breaks lower, you're going to probably run to the other side. And that's kind of what happens. Again, we fell out the downside. Don't be trying to buy that. I don't see anything here that's worth trying to risk a buy. Maybe you say, hey, there's a reversal here, but it looks a little congested. There's probably room to scalp out there. So if you took that one, maybe. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry. So you probably get a scalp out of that if you've got enough room to get out. Maybe you take that. And then, of course, it runs back again and then finally takes off. There's no setup here to ride this up. No reversal or anything. There is a second entry long right there. Signal bar is no good. We do run out here and break out the top, and notice this little second entry here. You don't have a new high on this one yet. It's the first close outside, really. You don't have a new high. So with that being a second entry, maybe you try to take that back to the new high. But the problem is there's a failed breakout here, and it could just fail and turn back down. So there's conflicting information here. you may make a new high and you may not. And so it just makes that one, but it's a second entry, a really nice bar, and you got plenty of room, so maybe you take it. We do push on up to a new high here and then turn down. And there's no reversal here. There's no lower high. It just kind of drops. There is a 2 legs back here, but it's so sideways and congested. Drops down, and then that just takes us. There's just nothing there. There's nothing that I would want to risk trying to go short, and you definitely got to be careful going long. So I just don't see anything there. This was a really nice move for that late in the day. But there it is. Kind of an oddball day. This is hard trading here. You got to be able to draw these short-term trends and find them, and kind of follow the trend rule, the trend rules within the short-term range there or whatever. So, and it was not real clear, and you had to be real careful about buying as well. So anyway, that's kind of how I saw it. I think if you traded early, you were probably fine. If you waited till late this afternoon, you probably didn't get much opportunities. I guess you should say not options, but opportunities, because there just weren't many setups that were real clear. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up for the week. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. Hope you had a good trading week. You know, we'll see where this thing goes. I think we still got room for more downward movement, although we're severely oversold. So we'll see what tomorrow brings. But I'm going to wrap today up. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.